This is your WWE Great Balls of Fire 2017 review from Dallas, Texas. I am the Solomonster here. This is Sound Off Extra. A show with so much blood that it's ironic, before they picked the name Great Balls of Fire, this pay-per-view had already been announced as Bad Blood. Remember Bad Blood from 1997? They were going to bring Bad Blood back. This was going to be the show, and then Vince McMahon had this bright idea to change the name. But then you look at all the blood on this show, and I guess they probably should have stuck with the original title. They showed the international announcers at the beginning of the show, and for the record, Great Balls of Fire sounds every bit as stupid in German and Spanish and every other language as it does in English. And thank you to all of the people who tweeted me screenshots throughout the show of various wrestlers with their head blocking out part of the pay-per-view logo in the background so that it said "Eat Balls," or when Cass came down to the ring as he's making his way down, just the way he was positioned, it said "Big Ass" instead of "Big Cass." So, but hey, this is what happens. This is what happens when you pick a stupid pay-per-view name. The name aside, Great Balls of Fire will go down, I think, as one of the better WWE pay-per-view shows of the year, at least of the first half of the year. I thought this was a really good show overall. I'm trying to think back if there was a better, I'm pretty sure there were one or two WWE pay-per-views that were probably better than this, but I thought this was a very good show overall. And just looking at the poll results on our Twitter page here at Solomonster, and I'll come back to the poll results later before we end, but so far, the poll only went up about 7 or 8 minutes ago. Already 600 votes, 67% thumbs up, 33% thumbs down. So overwhelmingly, you guys seem to like this show. And it was a very newsworthy show, not just because of all the blood, but also it was a very heel-heavy show. I'm looking at the results here. I'm going to go through, match by match, but really, there were no legitimate babyface wins on this entire show. Sasha Banks won her match by countout, but Alexa Bliss retained the championship. I mean, how much of a win is it really? I guess technically it's a win for Sasha, but, let's be honest here. It's not really a win. And I don't know what's going on with Roman and Braun. I'll talk more about that later. I know people, cheer Braun like he's a babyface, but that's not how he's positioned. That's not how he's booked. And so realistically, there really were no babyface wins on this show. It's a very heel-heavy show. I feel like it's been a very heel-heavy year in WWE. At some point, these babyfaces have to get their revenge. These heels have to get their comeuppance. But despite that, like I said, really good show overall. We'll get into everything. Let's start from the beginning. Neville and Akira Tozawa on the kickoff show for the Cruiserweight Championship. I thought good heat for the match. People seemed to be into it. Tozawa hit a big senton off the top. Neville rolled out to the floor to avoid being pinned. He's the champ for a reason. Smart, got to know where you are at all times. So he brings Neville back inside. Tozawa ended up getting crotched on the top rope, and Neville then kicks the top rope. And Tozawa's balls probably felt like they were on fire at that point. Neville won with a kick. Kind of out of nowhere, but there it is. I thought it was a lackluster finish to what was otherwise a pretty good match. And later on during the pay-per-view, they had a backstage segment. Tozawa was very upset, and he got up. He actually spoke some English. He got up in front of Titus O'Neil and said, "Look, you represent me. You got to make this right." Titus is like, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "I want a rematch." So Titus said he will work on that. And I'll tell you what, after this match here, I wouldn't mind seeing these two have a rematch at SummerSlam. Pay-per-view opened with Seth Rollins taking on the Eater of Pins, Bray Wyatt. Must be on a diet. There was no pin eaten tonight. Bray hit a sweet Uranage on Rollins for a near fall. I think the Uranage, when Bray hits it, I mean, it's easy to make fun of Bray, which it kind of kills me to do because, I used to be a big Bray Wyatt fan, and they really don't give you a lot of reasons to stick with the guy and believe in the guy. It's almost like the Dolph Ziggler syndrome, only not quite that bad. But the one thing I have to say is, when Bray hits that Uranage, it looks awesome. It's basically a more violent version of the Rock Bottom. And he just does it so well. I love it every time he hits it. It's too bad he never wins with it. Bray slapped Seth in the face. He said, "Fight me." Rollins obliged, but Bray went after the surgically repaired knee. Bray left the ring, and when Rollins went to go reach out after him, Bray stuck his thumb right in Seth's eye. He blinded him. Bray came back inside very quickly, hit Sister Abigail, and got the rare win here on pay-per-view. This is a good match. Nothing outstanding. Nothing that I would say, oh, you got to go back and watch this. Rollins has had far better matches, but it looks like they may be saving the better match for SummerSlam because, this is not the end here between these two. We had Big Cass and Enzo Amore. Cass finally has some new heel music. It's very bland, very basic. Basically, it sucks. Hopefully, it's just a placeholder until they work on something better for him. This was a total squash. Enzo came out. He cut another pretty good promo, but after that, it was all downhill. Booker T, I thought, had a great line during this match. He's talking about Cass's motivation for breaking up with Enzo and turning on his best friend. And Booker just says, look, Enzo's a nice guy, but my next-door neighbor is a nice guy. It doesn't mean he's going to help me win championships. So Booker T burying his next-door neighbor. Cass beat the hell out of him. He pressed him high over his head. He threw Enzo out to the floor. Enzo barely dragged himself back into the ring before the 10 count. And Cass wiped him out with a big boot to the mush. Got the pin. This was exactly what I expected it to be. And frankly, it's exactly what it should have been. Cass, I said this on the podcast earlier on the sound off, but Cass is not wrong in his promos when they have him scripted to talk about how, the money is in me. I'm the money here, not you. In the ring, I'm not saying on promos, but in the ring, the money is absolutely in Cass more than it is Enzo. I mean, that's a shoot. And so they need to do all they can do to build this guy up. And Enzo, once this feud runs its course, and I don't know if they're going to do a rematch or not. To me, there's no real need to do a rematch after this. It was pretty cut and dry. It was pretty much a dominant win here for Cass. Where Enzo goes when this thing is over, though, I have no idea. I guess 205 Live is probably the most likely place. We got a great promo for the Kurt Angle Homecoming special, the documentary that debuts on the WWE Network after Raw tomorrow night. And yes, they included Dixie Carter among the clips. She technically made her WWE pay-per-view debut tonight. And the special looks really good. I'm actually looking forward more to that than I am Raw. Although, coming out of the show, especially with the Roman and the Braun stuff, I am kind of looking forward to where they're going to go with that tomorrow night. But this Kurt Angle special looks really cool. 30-minute Iron Man match for the Raw Tag Team titles. The Hardy Boys against Sheamus and Cesaro. Not 30 seconds in. Sheamus is in the ring. He's going to start with Matt Hardy. All of a sudden, Cesaro comes in to distract Matt. Matt goes to clothesline him, but Cesaro ducks it. And as soon as Matt turns around, he walks right into a brogue kick. Sheamus gets the pin. Just like that, they get the first fall. And so right away, the champions go up. They isolate Jeff Hardy for a while. This is what happens. This is the formula in these Iron Man matches. You're going to go through this period where they're just sort of killing time, and that's really what the next several minutes were. They were beating down Jeff. Sheamus then pinned Jeff Hardy after Cesaro knocked Matt off the apron. Jeff went to go tag him, but he had nobody to go to. He had nobody to tag. And so that put the champs up 2-0. A few minutes later, Cesaro felled by a side effect from Matt Hardy, and then a twist of fate by Jeff. And so Cesaro is pinned, and that puts the challengers on the board. So it's Sheamus and Cesaro 2, Hardy Boys 1. Cesaro smashed Matt headfirst into the post, and Matt could not get back into the ring in time, and so he was counted out. That then gave Sheamus and Cesaro a 3-1 advantage. Got a little dull around this point. They're just sort of killing time. Cesaro went for a corner uppercut on Matt. Matt looked just exhausted. He's fighting for his life in there. So Cesaro comes in for the uppercut, but Matt sort of turns. And he turned it into a backslide. And in doing so, he made a blind tag to Jeff. So he gets Cesaro over for the backslide. And Cesaro has no idea that Jeff has been tagged in. Jeff comes in. And I'm trying to think how I can describe this. Basically, he just sat down. Jeff Hardy sat down on Cesaro's legs. There was no way for Cesaro to kick out. Hardy's got the pin. So they're within 1 now, 3-2. Then came I don't even know if it's fair to call it a ref botch. I just think it was a miscommunication where there was a near fall, and the referee was supposed to go, count the 1, the 2, and then I guess whoever it was would kick out. It looked like the referee may have slapped, the mat for 1. That's kind of what the fans thought. So they started counting 1, 2. It's one of these things where, back in the day, like Earl Hebner would do this a lot, where, there's a pinfall going on and he would dive over because he's out of position. So he would dive over, but when he jumps up and he lands on the mat, people would always mistake that for a 1 count. And so many times it just messed up, what they were trying to do with the near fall, and the fans, they boo. Here, the same thing happened. I think the referee was trying to check for the shoulder. Maybe the shoulder wasn't flat. Anyway, it was not a 3 count. It was a 2 count. The people started booing. They started chanting, "Ref, you suck," at poor John Cone. Matt nailed a twist of fate off the top rope for the pin on Sheamus, and we were all knotted up at 3 with a few minutes left to go. There was a great spot where each Hardy Boy came off the top rope on opposing sides onto Sheamus, I think it was. A double splash, although one of them may have hit a leg drop. I don't remember now, but I think this is where Matt got busted open. Matt Hardy got busted open big time. He was bleeding like a stuck pig, and it was a gash over one of his eyes, and I think it happened on this spot here. I mean, he looked like Two-Face. Literally half of his face was just covered in blood. And Jeff hit the Swanton Bomb on Sheamus. Cesaro was the legal man, though, and he immediately went in there, rolled up Jeff, got the pin to put them up 4 falls to 3, and that's how it stayed with 30 seconds left. Jeff hit a twist of fate on Cesaro. He went for the pin, but time ran out. And so Sheamus and Cesaro retained the tag team titles 4 falls to 3, which is eerie because when I did the Great Balls of Fire predictions on the podcast earlier today, if you remember, not only did I pick Sheamus and Cesaro, my prediction for what the fall count would be, I picked them 4 falls to 3. So, hey, when you nail it, you nail it. Final few minutes of this I thought was great. The whole match I thought overall was pretty good. They told a good story with the Hardys fighting from behind the entire way. At no point during this match did the babyfaces lead. They were always trying to come from behind. They did come back to tie it, and they just ran out of time in the end. I thought those final few minutes were pretty exciting. But again, when you do an Iron Man match, you have a lot of downtime. You have a lot of dull moments. It's not as bad when it's a 30-minute match as opposed to a 60-minute match. But even greats like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels did not hook people in for the majority of their Iron Man match. There was a lot of downtime that made the match boring, quite frankly. So, if Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels run into that problem, anybody can run into that problem. But I thought they made the most of it. And like I said, overall, I thought especially those final few minutes were really good. We had Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship. We saw another double-jointed spot early on here with Alexa. Alexa did this once on SmackDown last year in a match with Becky Lynch, and it was freaky as all hell. Even watching it now, even though I've seen her do it once before, it just, I wanted to vomit watching this. It's just, I cringe. I mean, that's the intended effect, but man, ugh. So she did this thing where she pretended, her arm was all twisted, and Sasha Banks looks mortified. But then Alexa very quickly snaps her arm back into place and then attacks Sasha. And Michael Cole sees this, and he says to the other announcer, he's like, "Wow, this is amazing. Have you guys ever seen anything like that before?" And I'm just sitting here waiting. I am waiting for one of them to just say, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, we saw it on SmackDown last year in the match. She had a match on SmackDown and she did the same thing." But they never did. They never did. They really do think we have the memory of a pineapple. So a few minutes, Sasha's her back is just being worked over by Alexa. Alexa at one point hit a code red in the corner on Sasha for a near fall. I didn't know how the two of them would work. Alexa's hit or miss. Alexa's had some good matches with some people, but with others, if she doesn't gel with them, it's a rough night. I felt like her and Bayley was a good example of that. I never really thought any of the matches she had with Bayley were really particularly good, but this one I thought was good. There were a few missteps, a few botches here and there, but overall I liked the match. Sasha did put the bank statement on at one point. They did a good job of making you think Alexa was going to tap, but she didn't. She made the ropes instead. Unfortunately, we got a lame countout finish, and I hate countout finishes. I know why they do them. I know why they did this one, and I can kind of excuse it because they're going to have a rematch. I'm sure they're going to have a rematch. They better have a rematch at SummerSlam. But they did the lame countout finish where Alexa intentionally got herself counted out. You know, Shawn Michaels used to do that all the time when he was the IC champion for the first time back in 93. And it sucked then. It sucked then and it sucks now when the heel bails. You know, Miz has done that in the past too. I hate that finish. Sasha was having none of it. She chased Alexa up the ramp, knocked her down. She threw her into the LED boards on the stage. Alexa fought back. They brawled over by the announce desk. This all ended with Sasha Banks jumping off the announce desk down onto Alexa a few feet down with the double knees. Looked pretty brutal. Alexa did come up bleeding from the mouth. That's twice up to this point on this show that we had blood. It would not be the final time. So until the finish, like I said, which at least served a purpose to set up a rematch, I enjoyed this. Now they could do the rematch at SummerSlam. No DQ, no count out. Personally, if it were me, I'd make it Falls Count anywhere. Let them fight all over the building. So by this point, even though Sasha technically got the win, Alexa retained. She had her music played. To me, that's a win. Up to this point, it was a clean sweep on this show for the heels. We had Miz and Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental title. The streak of blood on the show rolled on. You could add Dean Ambrose to the list. He got his mouth busted open early on. Ambrose hit Dirty Deeds. He had Miz beat, but Maurice reached in, put Miz's foot on the bottom rope. Ref didn't see it. This was the same referee who got grief earlier from the fans in the Iron Man match and got chants of "Ref, you suck." Well, he got more chants of "Ref, you suck" here after this. Curtis Axel jumped up on the apron. Ambrose brought him in over the top rope. Referee hustled over to get Axel. I never really understood why the babyfaces in a championship match would do that. Like, bringing the guy into the ring, all you're doing is getting your ass DQ'd, right? So why in God's name would you do that? And it backfired on Ambrose here. The referee was hustling Axel out of the ring, and with his attention diverted, Bo Dallas jumped up on the apron and he punched Dean Ambrose in the back of the head. A punch! Now, he did have a black glove on, so maybe it's the old loaded glove gimmick from back in the 70s. Although if it is, the announcer sure as hell didn't say anything about it. That was enough for Miz to nail the skull-crushing finale and get the pin. Miz retains, as he should have. But man, I am beyond done with Miz and Dean Ambrose matches. They're not bad matches, but they're not special. There's nothing exciting about them. We've seen them 1,000 times. And I am just so done with this, which probably means we'll get it again at SummerSlam. Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. Here's where things really picked up. Now, I said going into this pay-per-view, I was looking forward to this match. I said no matter what you think of Roman Reigns, more often than not, he delivers in these big pay-per-view matches. And him and Braun, the matches they've had have been really good. I think they have good chemistry. They work well together. I think, Roman deserves credit, but Braun deserves a hell of a lot of credit here because Braun Strowman has not been doing this for very long. Braun Strowman has not been in main events. He has not been in the position he's in for that long. And I think he has come very far in a very limited amount of time, and I think he can only get better. And that's kind of scary because he's already pretty good. So these guys went out there. I thought they had a very good match, not surprisingly. I love the finish. Forget all the stuff that happened after, just the finish. I laughed my ass off. I love that finish because they're over by the ambulance, right? So they're brawling all over the place. And Braun is just pulling stuff out of the back of the ambulance, and he's beating on Roman with a backboard. And Roman is selling it, even though he's got the vest, the Kevlar vest and all that. Apparently this hurts him. I don't know why people just don't rip that damn vest off of Roman's chest, but in any event, he's beating him up with the backboard, and he's pulling all the stretcher and all the junk out of the back. And so the doors are open. And Roman has Braun positioned. He's going to spear him into the ambulance. Only Roman builds up a head of steam, and he goes for a gigantic spear. and Braun just dodges him. He ducks right out of the way, and Roman goes flying into the back of the ambulance, and Braun just closes the doors, and that's it. It got a huge reaction. I laughed my ass off. I love that finish. I thought that was great. That was so great. And it would have been fantastic if it would have just ended there like that, but it didn't, because Roman Reigns is a sore loser. He is a Samoan sore loser. So he comes out of the back of the ambulance. He gives Braun the spear anyway. He starts to ram the ambulance door into Braun's, his elbow, and he's just kicking this guy's ass. He's so pissed off. He has lost it. He has lost his cool. And he throws Braun into the back of the ambulance. He then very, shall we say, aggressively extricates the ambulance driver from the driver's seat. He takes the wheel, and like a bat out of hell, he drives the ambulance through to the back of the arena to the parking garage. And they have a camera angle where you can see Roman looking at his own reflection in the driver's side window like he's contemplating his fate. What am I going to do here? What do I want to do with this man? And he decides, you know what? Tonight's a good night for murder. I'm going to murder this man. And he backs the ambulance up at full speed. The ambulance rams right into a semi-truck, I think one of the WWE trucks. The ambulance just compresses, destroys the back of the ambulance. He literally tried to kill Braun Strowman. Brought me back to the Attitude Era. We used to have attempted murder every other week on TV. So that's what this reminded me of. So then Roman stumbles out of the ambulance. He goes off somewhere. I don't know why the cops didn't arrest him. And Kurt Angle comes out. He's got this shocked look on his face. All the referees come out. They're trying to check on Braun. They're trying to get Braun out of the back of the ambulance. The whole time I'm watching this, and I'm just thinking to myself, why don't you just drive, or at least try to drive the ambulance forward a little bit? It's like they're trying to look in the back, and they can't, because, he drove the ambulance like through a truck, and they can't really see what's going on. I'm like, nobody is even attempting to drive the damn ambulance forward. I'm like, you might want to at least try to do that, but they never did. So they're all looking inside. They're trying to, Braun, are you okay? And they're trying to make sure he's okay. Meanwhile, while all this drama is unfolding in the back, they send an extra match out there. They send Heath Slater and Kurt Hawkins out for a match. I have no idea what happened. Nobody was paying attention. The only thing I know is that Slater won, and the only reason I know that is because that's what JoJo said, so I'll take JoJo's word for it. And, for the two people who cared, yes, Heath Slater did win, and one of those people, by the way, is probably Rhino. So they had a split screen going, so we could see all the chaos going on backstage. We cut back. We hear sirens. Fire trucks are here now, and the firemen come out. They have the jaws of life. They're going to use the jaws of life to remove Braun Strowman from the ambulance. They're trying to get the door open. It looked like they were legitimately having a lot of trouble trying to get that door open, but they finally did. And Braun was in the back, and he was all bloody. What else? Of course, more blood. We don't have enough blood on this show. It's funny to me, like there was so much blood. And how many times have we seen Brock Lesnar bleed in a match? A lot of times, right? Whether it's from the mouth or he cuts his head open or something. And of all the blood that we saw in this pay-per-view, I just realized we didn't see any blood in the main event, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so Braun his elbow is bleeding, his mouth is bleeding. He staggers out of the ambulance, absolutely refuses to be put on a backboard or a stretcher. He's refusing help. He tells everybody, just leave me alone. Kurt Angle, again, has this deer in the headlights look on his face. He can't believe what he's seeing. And Braun, not only he refused help, and he staggers off on his own, like a babyface. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, if they had any guts, they would use this as a double turn. Braun Strowman came off, I'm sure I'm not the only one who saw the parallels here, to Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 and what they did there at the end of that match. Right? Now, forget the finish. I mean, Braun won. It kind of got lost in all this, but Braun Strowman did win this match. But the idea that he comes up, he's bloody, he's staggering all over, he's like a wounded animal, he doesn't want anybody to touch him, he doesn't want anybody to help him. Think back to WrestleMania 13, right? Austin passed out. When he wakes up, he's bloody, he's beaten, he's exhausted. I think it was Mike Chioda came into the ring. Mike Chioda's trying to give him a helping hand. What does Austin do? Kicks him in the gut and stuns him. I don't want your help. I don't need your help. And like a wounded animal, he goes and walks off. The crowd cheers him like this big conquering babyface, even though he was still a heel at the time. And I'm watching this and I'm saying, well, Braun's already getting cheered like a babyface, just like Austin kind of was back then. He's bloody. He's like a wounded animal. He's refusing all help. He walks off on his own power. There's a lot of parallels here. And so this is, if they want it to be, this is tailor-made to be a double turn if they want to pull the trigger. Roman Reigns just tried to commit murder. I mean, the seeds have been planted here. I have no idea what they're going to do tomorrow night. I don't think they have the guts. I don't think Vince McMahon has the guts. But it's all set up perfectly. It seems like this was designed to get Braun Strowman over as a huge babyface. And if the plan is to do Strowman and Lesnar at SummerSlam, which I wouldn't mind seeing, although what they did with Joe kind of bothers me. I'll talk about that in the main event here. But if the plan is to do Lesnar and Strowman for the championship at SummerSlam, it makes sense to position Braun Strowman as a babyface, as this big badass destroyer, or a tweener at the very least, going into that match. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they do with Braun. The bigger question is, what are they going to do with Roman? What are they going to do with Roman Reigns? Are they just going to continue to book him as they always do? Is he going to be the babyface, who gets booed, like John Cena, and we just kind of go along, status quo? Or are they going to actually, push this guy in a different direction and push him in a darker direction and have him change his personality and act more heel-like? I mean, we've seen heelish tendencies from Roman, but I don't want to hear this garbage about, well, he's already a heel. He kind of acts like a heel sometimes, and the people already boo him. That doesn't mean anything. It's all in the positioning. How are they positioning him? What kind of opponents is he in the ring with? If Roman's going out there every week and he's wrestling heels for the most part, it's because he's a friggin' babyface. All right? If Roman was a legitimate heel, he'd act like one, but he'd be wrestling guys like Balor. He'd be wrestling babyfaces at all the pay-per-views. We haven't seen that yet. So they find themselves in a situation here where if they want to pull the trigger and use this to turn both guys, go this way with Strowman and go this way with Roman, here it is. Here it is. You can shake things up and do a double turn. This is Vince McMahon's call to make. And I think, when Raw comes on the air tomorrow night, hopefully we'll have a better sense of it. I don't see, storyline-wise, I don't see how Roman doesn't get suspended by Kurt Angle for this. That'll be interesting. If Roman gets off scot-free from this, I would love to hear the explanation of why and how. So hopefully we'll get more answers tomorrow night. But this is a very interesting situation here because I just honestly don't think Vince McMahon has the guts to pull the trigger on the double turn, but we'll find out. Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe for the Universal Championship. This had a big fight feel to it from the moment Joe's music hit. He's got one of the best theme songs in the company. He does the BMF walk down to the ring. Out comes Lesnar. And Joe went right after him. As Paul Heyman was on the mic doing the ring introductions, he didn't even wait for the bell. Joe went right after him. He knocked Lesnar out of the ring. He used a Uranage on him through the announce table. It was either the German table or the French table, or it was one of them, maybe the Spanish table. But he put Lesnar through the table. People are going nuts. Joe's in the ring. He's chomping at the bit. He's calling for Brock to get back into the ring. Finally, Lesnar gets back in. Lesnar's got a smile on his face. He's laughing. He is laughing at this. Bell rings. We're underway. And Joe went right for him. Joe's giving him, knees, and they're brawling around. At one point, he took him down with like an amateur wrestling takedown. Eventually, Brock kicked into Brock mode. He started hitting German suplexes. I don't know what the final count was. He probably hit about 6 or 7 of them on Joe in the final minutes of the match. But the story was that Joe kept locking in the choke. He was trying to put Brock down with the choke. Brock was turning purple, but he never went out. He never went out, and in the end, while he was in the choke, he managed to get Joe up onto his shoulders. He hit one F5, and he got the pin. Clean in the middle of the ring. Brock Lesnar retains the Universal Championship. Samoa Joe, not happy with himself. As Brock was leaving, they kind of showed Joe laying in the ring on his stomach looking at Brock as Brock walked out. They sort of made it seem like this was not the end of the issue between these two, but I have a feeling it is. And look, I'm happy that we got to see Brock Lesnar in what felt like a real match and not just a suplex exhibition. And we kind of saw that with him and Goldberg at WrestleMania. Back and forth. It wasn't very long. That was about, 4 minutes? I think this match here was maybe 6 or 7, so it went a little bit longer. But it felt like a fight. This felt like a fight. It was back and forth. And so I like that aspect of it. But I can't believe that they pinned Joe clean with one F5. This was honestly the most anticipated WWE pay-per-view main event in a long, long time. Maybe of the year. And you knew it wasn't going to go that long. It would have been nice if it went a few more minutes, but you knew it wasn't going to go that long. But the one thing I was hoping was they would not just pin Joe clean in the middle with one F5, and I sure as hell did not want this to be a one-and-done type of thing. We don't know. We won't know until tomorrow night. Tomorrow night it should become clear if it was one and done, and they're moving on to Lesnar and Strowman, or if Roman's going to be involved in some way, and how or why, I don't know. Because not only did he lose, but like I said, he tried to kill somebody. He shouldn't be getting a title shot. But if this was truly one and done and they're moving on and Brock is moving on to someone else, this was a terrible mistake. A huge, huge mistake if they move on from this. If they continue and there's a rematch, then that's fine. There absolutely should be a rematch. Even though Joe got pinned clean, he took it to Brock. I mean, he took a good, 80% of the match. And in the end, Brock hit one move out of desperation and got the win. To me, that's not a convincing win. There is enough wiggle room here to put these guys back in the ring in another pay-per-view match. But if not, this was one of the worst outcomes that you could possibly think of here. There's still interest in this match. I still think that there's money and there's a lot of interest in seeing these two guys rematch. You want to put them in a cage. You want to give them some other stipulation? Fine. I don't even think it needs a stipulation, but if you want to make it no holds barred or something, be my guest. I'll pay for that. So not knowing exactly where they're going to go, it's hard to say. But I liked the match, but the ending disappointed me. And Joe was at least made to look strong. I'm not saying he's not buried or anything like that. I'm not. Let's not get carried away here. But man, one F5. This just can't be a one and done situation. If it's one and done, it's one of the big blunders of the year in WWE. But we have to just wait and see where it goes. If it leads to a rematch, then that's fine. But that's not what I would have done here. So having said all of that, I look back on this pay-per-view. There were a lot of good matches, a lot of blood, right? People love blood. But the last two matches in particular really made the show. Really put the show over the top for me. I thought it was really good. I'm just flashing back to the Twitter poll here before we wrap up. And we now are at 1,100 votes, so we've almost doubled our vote total from earlier. And it's going up. 71% thumbs up, 29% thumbs down. So this has been a pretty well-received show from what I'm seeing so far. The people who did not like this show, you are in the minority. If you want to make your voice heard and vote, go to @Solomonster on Twitter. You can vote thumbs up, thumbs down. I did think this was one of the better WWE pay-per-view shows of the year. And those two main event matches delivered. I'm very, very anxious to see what they do on Raw tomorrow. For the first time in a while, I am genuinely interested to see what they are going to do on Raw tomorrow night for two reasons. Number one, is it one and done with Samoa Joe? Is this it with Joe and Lesnar? It would be a big mistake if it was. And number two, are they, did we see a double turn here tonight? Is there going to be a slow build to a double turn where Braun Strowman becomes the big conquering, almost Austin-like babyface in a way, and Roman Reigns goes heel? Does Vince McMahon have the balls to do that? To take his Samoan franchise here and kind of take a chance and do something different with him? Or is it going to be more of the same? History would indicate it's going to be more of the same. They don't take chances very often. But if ever there was a time to take a chance with the way the product has been lately, now would be that time. Shake things up a little bit, take a chance. Everything is set up perfectly for them to do it. pull the trigger and do it. SummerSlam has a lot of potential right now. And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how Joe factors into it, if they're going to do Brock and Braun one-on-one. What's Roman going to do? But there's a lot of, potential for some big matches on that SummerSlam card, and they have time now to build it up. So we'll find out on Raw tomorrow night. Check out my full Sound Off podcast. They drop it every Sunday on the Solomonster.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. You can find the full shows there. You could also find all my other videos here on this channel, other pay-per-view reviews. I do the Sound Off Gamer retro videos where I play old WWF games, and I'm generally not very good at it, although the most recent one that I did, I played Royal Rumble from 1993, and I actually won. I just spoiled it, but you can check out all that stuff here on the channel. Hit the subscribe button. Give a like to the video. Would be most appreciated. Leave comments down. Let me know what you thought of the pay-per-view. What do you think about this whole Braun and Roman thing? Where do you want them to go with it? What did you think of the main event? Leave your comments in the comments section below. I am the Solomonster. I'll be back real soon with a brand new extra here on YouTube. So until then, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you back here again real soon. Take care, guys.